talking today to Anne McReynolds, who is the Chief Executive of MAC, which is the newest arts centre in Belfast in Northern Ireland. And tell me about the centre and its development.
Well, the MAC has been a long time coming. I had my first conversation with you about the idea of creating a new major arts venue in the centre of the city in May 1996. So these things take some time. The MAC is very large. It's a large building right slap bang in the centre of the city, and it's got lots of public funding attached to it, and that takes time to sort of work through.
Get people behind it.
Get people behind it, yeah. Basically, the MAC is, on one hand, you could say it's a theatre and visual arts space. On the other hand, you could say it's a symbol of a new confidence in Northern Ireland.
It also has a level of ambition, doesn't it? You were saying earlier as we went around the building that you've got a partnership with the Tate, for example.
Yes. To begin at the beginning, I suppose we should say that the MAC has 2 theatres and 3 really beautifully designed visual art spaces, and offices for 4 resident arts groups, and a brilliant cafe and bar, and multi-purpose rooms, 4 of those for rehearsals and dance classes and seminars and launches. It's got an artist-in-residence studio space, a couple of project spaces, and I think that's more or less it. But yes, as you say, it's interesting to consider why did it take so long to create the idea. The idea was there for a long time, but delivering the project took a great deal of time. And I think it's because in Northern Ireland, things have been difficult here for a long time. This is a post-conflict society, and all sorts of things happen in society whenever there's conflict. There's all sorts of stoppages occur in normal development.
Yeah.
If you consider a child who doesn't see daylight, that affects their behaviour. The same can be said of a society which is at war. People act differently than they do in times of calm. They go into a self-protection mode, which causes them, for instance, not to perhaps go out in the evening.
Yeah.
It causes people to retrench into their own neighbourhoods where they feel comfortable. People stay with their own kind, whatever that may mean. And that impedes normal development in society. So that,
people hold on to what they know rather than what might be.
That's quite right, and that's not a good atmosphere within which to try and be creative in any shape or form, nor indeed to create something really new and ambitious. So we like to joke about the fact that it took 16 years, and that was with the funders' support. I mean, the project's been heavily supported by DCAL, the Department for Culture, Arts and Leisure, and the Arts Council, and Belfast City Council, and Laganside, and DFD. So everybody wanted it to happen, and yet it took a very long time for it to be realised. But we're glad it's here now. One of the reasons might have been that there is this level of ambition which is about really delivering on a lot of fine words that have been spoken for many years about Belfast's aspirations to be a top-flight European city, really wanting to punch in a different league, because you must accept, everybody must recognise the fact that, you know, tourists who are considering where to spend their free time, the last place, they might have gone to Beirut before they would have come to Ballymena, but maybe not, or to go to, Belfast, but maybe not. So there was something about us needing to sort of really believe in ourselves to be able to regenerate ourselves the way we have begun to do.
And lots of other venues in the city have also transformed themselves. So give us some idea of what has happened in the other venues of the city. Yeah,
comparing Belfast now with Belfast 10 years ago, it's amazing the development and the investment that's occurred in lots of different areas, but particularly in the cultural infrastructure. The MAC has been built. The Lyric, which is Northern Ireland's producing theatre, was in a terrible state of disrepair. It's been entirely rebuilt on the site it was on previously, and it's a beautiful building.
Alongside the Lagan River.
Alongside the Lagan River. In fact, the Daily Telegraph recently, quite somewhat cheekily, had an article which the central premise of which was, how could Belfast have created 2 of the most beautiful buildings of the 21st century, of the last century, they said, you know, as if this somewhat insular provincial, so how do we manage it? And they cited the Lyric and the MAC as those 2 buildings. So the Lyric's been rebuilt. The Crescent Arts Centre, which was a charming community-based space, has been beautifully refurbished. It's a very old building. The Ulster Museum has been refurbished and extended. The Opera House, which is our 1,000-seat venue, has had a very useful extension put on the side of that Frank Matcham design space. The Culturland, which is another community-based space up in West Belfast, has had an extension and a refurb. And all these things have happened, you know, in the last 6 years. One of the reasons I think why so much needed to happen in Belfast was the fact that the Arts Council had a policy which was made possible because of the influx of lottery funding and capital lottery funding. For them to spread resources outside of Belfast. They wanted to create, and they had a strategy which was to create an arts space 20 miles from every resident, every citizen in Northern Ireland. So we have beautiful spaces in Ballymena and Derry, Londonderry and Omagh and Armagh and, you know...
So spread throughout the province.
But so as they were doing that, Belfast was really on its knees. So there was an issue about redressing, because of course, as with all regions, the major city, the capital city, is the economic driver, and it's the heartbeat of the region.